Welcome to see the video on YouTube channel SKS Education Tech. Video Learning and Teaching 3.1 Assessment Rubrics, an essential assessment instrument for outcome-based education. I am Professor Satish Kumar Soni and I am presenting the concept of assessment rubrics and its categories and its different types of the assessment rubrics. Let us see the details of assessment rubrics. Rubric is a sequential set of performance indicators which define and describe important components or steps for performing a task, which is being completed within the specified limits of time, resources, and constraints. These components or steps are used as criteria of assessment of overall quality of performance by further elaborating the criteria across a predefined rating scale. Assessment using rubric is substantially objective, and that is why such instrument is preferred in the assessment process of outcome-based education. Let us now use this graphic to understand the components of a rubric, a mechanism for assessing or scoring a student demonstration given the conditions for problem and or task. Mechanism means method, tool, way or document. Assessing implies assisting, facilitating, guiding, coaching and or scoring. Scoring means ranking or grading or labeling. Demonstration means performance or showing the product or explaining the portfolio. Conditions, standard, expectations, criteria, specifications, etc. So, a rubric is a mechanism for assessing or scoring a student demonstration given the conditions for the problem and or a task. Tabular presentation of criteria. Assessment rubrics are helpful in assessing qualitative personality attributes. To increase objectivity, performance of each element of a task is broken down into 3 to 5 steps or sub-skills, to each of which is a grade or a number is allocated. Rubrics can be displayed graphically as a table to function as a reminder of criteria to be considered while assessing students. A few tabular rubrics can be preserved as sample records of the assessment of all the students at a point of time. Such records shall be more convincing to any inspection team as compared to general statement that we regularly use assessment rubrics in continuous assessment of students. Let us consider the first types of rubrics. The criteria is the discipline wise, either general discipline or a specific discipline. Generic rubric. It shall be applicable to a general performance related to a variety of disciplines. Examples: expert communicator, effective leader. Specific rubric. It shall be applicable to a specific task pertaining to a typical discipline or a trade. Example: winding a ceiling fan motor or quality soldering, etc. Example: Type 1 generic rubric, good for performances like ability to lead a professional group. This is a generic skill. Selecting a good quality steel almirah at a lower cost. It is a good skill for a domestic person. It can be used in case of performance of similar tasks. It's a big picture approach, and many specific pictures can be involved in a big picture. And this has slightly more subjectivity. Let us see example of type 2 rubric. Specific task relevant rubric. Good for specific skilled performance like replacing an old large chip by soldering a new chip onto the printed circuit board of a complex instrument. Can only be used for a single specific task. Focused approach and slightly more objective. Let us now see the second way of classification of types of rubrics. Some of the rubrics may be simple as the checklist of a grocery shopping. So it is a checklist type of rubric. Another way of making the rubric is in the format of a table. So tabular rubrics having rating scales. There are two different types of tabular rubrics. One is holistic rubric, another is analytic rubric. Holistic rubric has two columns. In the table column 1 have the sub-skills or steps or criteria of performance. In column 2, the description showing the performance required to gain maximum marks or grade. In analytic rubric, the column 1 describes the steps of performing or criteria or sub-skills, and column 2 to 5 each for increasing rating scale showing description of performance suitable to accomplish the grade allocated to the column. So now we will see a few examples of these two or three different types of rubrics. Let us now understand the tabular structure of a generic analytic rubric. The title of the rubric is Team Preparing for Classroom Seminar in Library. The quality of team preparing for classroom seminar in library. The criteria or elements of performances in column 1, research and gather information. 2, fulfill team's roles and duties. 3, share work equally. And 4, listen to other team mates. The rating scale has 5 columns: 1 mark for unsatisfactory, 2 mark for developing, 3 marks for satisfactory, and 4 marks for exemplary performance. And the score, what is the score? It has to be recorded in the last column. So you can just read. For example, research and gather information for unsatisfactory performance does not collect any information on the topic, and for the exemplary performance collects a great deal of information, all referring to the topic. Let us see share work equally. For unsatisfactory always relies on others to do work, and for exemplary performance always does the assigned work without any need to remind. So, this is how a generic analytic rubric is constructed. And the title of the rubric, Team Preparing for Classroom. So, preparing a team for any task is a general performance. So, it can be termed as generic and analytic because there are 4 or 5 columns with increasing rating scale, and the column 1 belongs to the sub skills or steps of performance. So this is a generic analytic rubric. Let us take example of another generic analytic rubric. Title of the task is Analyze a problem in a team. So there are 7 sub-skills or steps in solving or analyzing the problem. And there is a 4-point rating scale with the last column for recording the score. The rubric is continued on next page as well. Let us read step 1. Consult and elect a leader. For unsatisfactory performance, does not take any interest and remains self-centered. For exemplary performance, proposes names of a person and justifies why. Research, gather information and maintain logbook. Criteria 3. For unsatisfactory performance, does not collect any information on the topic, and for exemplary performance, collects a great deal of information, all refer to the topic. This is continued rubric. Analyze a problem in a team. So, for the 7 sub-criteria, leader presents analysis. For lowest performance, presents orally without any visual support. Or in the chalkboard or PowerPoint presentation, paper avoids questions. And for exemplary performance, presents on a carefully prepared PowerPoint presentation and supporting notes, provokes questions and confidently satisfies the queries. So this is how a analytic generic rubric is constructed. Let us now see the example of generic holistic rubric, and the title of the rubric is Team Preparing for Classroom Seminar in Library. The criteria column 1, criteria and elements of performance, research and gather information, fulfill teams' roles and duties, share work equally, listen to other teammates. And the description of the performance for seeking total marks 4, the highest marks 4. The second one is a checklist rubric, where only the list of the criteria or steps of the performance are given. So that is a checklist rubric. Now we shall explain an example of specific analytic rubric. The task is soldering on motherboard of an electrical appliance. Abilities or steps. In column 1, thoroughly scrape and clean metal surface to be soldered. Apply flux and solder on both the surfaces to be joined. Preheat the surface of the chassis and add filler, solder metal and press the lugs on the hot chassis. Allow the joint to cool for some time. Then there are 5 columns. One column, last column is for score, and the 4 columns are meant for increasing degree of attainment: 30%, 50%, 70%, 80%. So, this is how the specific analytic rubric is made. This analytic rubric can only be used for a very specific process that is known as soldering on a motherboard. And that's why this is a different category as compared to generic analytic rubric. So this is the example of specific analytic rubric. Let us now conclude. A rubric is a mechanism for assessing or scoring a student demonstration given the condition for a problem or a task. Since analytic rubric is the most objective assessment instrument, it should be used as much as feasible in assessing students in outcome-based education. Thank you very much for listening with patience and with a strong desire to change. Please like and subscribe us on YouTube channel SKS Education Tech. Thanks again.